Find yourself a comfy chair, grab a pen and paper. Get ready to learn secret nuggets, the secret sauce to conquering your entrepreneurial dreams from today's top influencers. She's the jewel of the crown of the Pheiff Group, founder of the Crazy Ones community, with her distinctive voice known everywhere. Your host, Connie Pheiff.
Hey everyone, we're back. We are beyond the halfway point. We just have a couple more guests. Hang in there. I want to invite you to make sure you're commenting on creating and executing your brand. Put some comments in our chat room. Let us know how else we can help you and what other programs we can provide to you to help you conquer your entrepreneurial dreams. So our next guest, you're going to recognize him from shows like Criminal Minds, Hawaii Five-0, Bones. He is, yes, an actor out of a good friend, a dear friend of ours. He's known as the Hollywood Redneck or the communications entrepreneur. And he has so many stories of helping you launch, create, conquer your entrepreneurial dreams. So right now, let's bring in Kevin E. West.
Hey.
Hey, doll. How are you?
I'm solid, Connie. How are you doing?
Good. You looking good?
Well, I've showered for you, so there you go.
Love it. I know the big conversation today is the COVID-20. So yeah, we don't want that, right? We don't want to talk about that. But again, you've done some incredible things in your career. Again, from acting, you're an avid golfer. We know that. And you're the founder of the Actors Network, which another business that you've run. And again, a serial entrepreneur. So you're always out there. You're putting yourself out there and wanting to help other people. And I think that's really a theme for today on all of our guests. It's how you're helping other people achieve their dreams. And I think that's exactly what you're doing. So why don't you just fill us in, just bring us up to date what you're up to right now?
Well, I mean, I'm always up to something. I'm currently in the middle of creating an online program that sort of lends itself to the legacy of me as a speaker regarding showbiz. But, the Actors Network was indeed something that I think the most important thing as an entrepreneur that I was told about that, Connie, and you and I actually have never really talked about this a lot, was I was told by several people, oh, that'll never work. That can't work. And the reason why I was told that is because it was a business that it was an idea, it was a concept, yeah. It was a labor of love that became a business that I became an entrepreneur in doing, but it was because it was designed for professional actors to actually help one another. Ha, ha, ha. From the we're all narcissists and self-centered, et cetera. So I understood that. But over the course of building that organization and have it becoming something that existed as a brick and mortar for nearly 24 years and won awards, I began to realize that most entrepreneurial ventures really fall into three categories, in my opinion. The most common is something that's essential. Perhaps somebody's a small businesses, they have their own private practice of some sort, that's some sort of essential thing. Auto mechanics that are more needed on a regular basis. A lot of entrepreneurs do things that involve customers that are spending disposable income. And then the third one is what my company was, and what a lot of things that happen, as an app or online now, and to me it makes no difference, is that it was a cultural entrepreneurial effort, or ideological or philosophical. It didn't really follow into disposable income or essential. And I think in all three of those cases, you have to know whether or not you're filling a void, or whether or not you're just doing something that's something you love, or that you're doing it based on location. And so I think there are just a lot of times for us a lot of us have an entrepreneurial spirit, Connie, but we don't necessarily stop and look at, and it took me a while to do it with my organization, was, wait a second, where does this fit, and what do I have to make a priority, as opposed to what, let's say, starting your own business for dummies 101 tells you have to make a priority. And I think that's where a
But
lot of us go sideways.
starting a business, yeah, and starting a business comes from an idea. You know,
Correct.
it comes from an idea. Like, you know, we talked about Steve Jobs just, you know, in the last set. Who knew that would grow to this mega billion-dollar company? And you know, who knows what that is. Again, it comes with an idea. Many businesses start because they see a need. And I was like, well, if there's a need, that's an idea for a business. But I wanted to touch on something that you said, which was loving what you do. So I just want to, I guess, be clear on that. It's really good to do what you love to do, but you also want to make sure that you're doing what you love to do that's making an income for you too. And
Correct.
no, and that's the biggest question a lot of people have. And again, in LA, there's a lot of people on the beach making widgets because they want to be surfers. So, is that a reputable business? Absolutely, it could be, but you want to make sure you're doing what you love that's really serving other people, that brings it all back full circle to you.
Correct. And I specifically, a lot of people do a lot of things very quickly sometimes. And I mean, you're an example of someone who was in the corporate America structure. You reached
Hmm.
a point for a while until you said, I don't necessarily want to do this anymore. I want to go do something else. But I don't think you just woke up one day and quit your job. You took a
Oh
little
no.
time. Yeah, I mean, you probably took a little time to sort of examine yourself, look in the mirror, think about what
Mhm.
what it was you wanted to do outside of, but also at the same time taking what you knew. I spent a good 4 years in Hollywood before I even had the first meeting of my organization, and then even from there, I probably spent 3 or 4 years in a very safe way discovering how much I loved wanting to help others and how much I wanted to create a solution
Yeah.
for what I thought was a huge void in an industry that desperately needed what it was that I was going to do. And so I was very strident about, the love and passion for doing something. I didn't just jump. And I can appreciate spontaneity, but whew, entrepreneurialism is really difficult if you don't at least give it some due respect and some due thought, both between your head and your heart and
Right.
together with your gut. So
Well, we do talk about money, love, speed, right? So again, that's for an entrepreneur, because a lot of people will just jump right in, and they have that type of personality. Let's do it. Let's do it. But I could be one of those sometimes. I'm just letting you know. But yeah,
I can be a
before
little
before
impatient.
you think? Yeah, the little impatient does come out with me sometimes. But when I was in corporate, I mean, I loved my job. But when I found out that it was going to come to an end, yeah, I had a period of time where I was able to plan. I would actually joke with another fellow CEO that we were going to become fishmongers, and- or truck drivers, or and drive around the country, or do something. But it takes some time to really hone in on what it is that you want to do. And yeah, you want to love what you do, but the one of the secrets, one of the things that I found, that I share a lot with the clients that we coach, is take what you know. It's that transference of skill that you've done for all of these years, and bring it forward, because we're guilty of jumping in and saying, okay, what am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. Okay, should I be a fishmonger? Should you start asking all of these questions, and you forget what you know. You forget whether if you have a advanced education, what did you learn there? What have you been doing in the company that you've been working with for all of these years? So how do you use that, transfer it forward, use that knowledge, use what you know, and then along the way there will be shifts and some pivots and things that you need to change with that. But I just want people to hear that you don't have to create something brand new. take what it is that you love and learn how to create a business out of that.
Yeah, and I think, Connie, with that, a lot of what happens is we make a decision to do something, and we know that we have an affinity for it, or we have a joy for it, or we have a desire for it. But a lot of times when we suddenly turn it in or decide to think, oh, this would be a business, we don't give it what I think is the proper incubatory or incubation period to actually let what aspects of what you've learned in life come out in the proper way. And we make that knee-jerk leap because we've been told all these things that we're supposed to do first, or in some order of a punch list or a priority list when you have a business. And I think it's actually one of the reasons why a huge percentage of small businesses and entrepreneurial efforts fail, because a lot of times you don't necessarily have to make the first 5 things that somebody either told you in a book or that your friend did about where you spend your money to invest in the business or the entrepreneurial idea that you're going to do. I don't believe that that's static for everybody, and I don't believe that it's static for every business. And unless you do enough, your previous speaker, Aaron, unless you do enough investigation on what you've learned in your life, what you've seen in your life, the failures, the successes, even in something that is a new venture, and you let it incubate long enough for you to go, you know what, I know this is normally one of the top 3 things they say you have to do in business first, but in this scenario for me, this is going to be 7. I'm going to put 1 and 2. I had a landlord literally say that to me when we made a lease on my first place for my company, and he told me, it was shocking to me, but I knew that instinctually I was doing it right. He said, my brother and I told each other we knew you were going to succeed. And I said, why? And he said, because we paid attention to the things you didn't spend money on as a first-time business owner. And it's because, it wasn't because I'm a genius. It was because I listened to what was in here and what I'd learned here about my own profession and the reason why I was doing it to begin with and what void I was filling to begin with. And none of those standard business things had anything to do with the value of spending money in those common standard ways. And that's what I mean by that.
Well, I mean, you're a genius, Kevin. Come on, you are a genius. Let's just put that out there. Let's just throw it out there. But no, but the one point that you made though is absolutely right. First of all, there is no ABC and 1, 2, 3 on how to start and how to scale an entrepreneurial business. And anybody that tells you that are crazy. But there are some things that you want to do, like making sure that you file for your business, federal tax identification number. That's critical. You have to do that. I mean, there are certain things that you have to do. If you have certain lines or taglines of words that you want to do, make sure you trademark them. And I had a trademark issue, so that's like number 1 on my list. But
Same
maybe
here.
you don't know what that is yet, right? So you're not going to do it. But right, you need to do what works for you. And the other thing, we talk about when you're starting a business, you want to drill deep in one specific sector, and you are a perfect example of this. That it's not always drilling deep; it's encircling. It's getting out there and encircling those that you want to work with, and then honing in on that and letting them know who you are, and you're that expert in that area, in that field. And that's part of the branding, letting people know you want them to come to you and think of you, top of mind awareness, that you are the expert that's going to help them with XYZ, whatever it is that they're looking for in their company, in their business. So no, Kevin, you are a genius. And that was a perfect way in how you put that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It learned over a period of time. I didn't start a business at 19 years old. I was a little bit older, and by the time I actually had my own brick and mortar space, I was actually 32 years old. So it wasn't something that I tried to do right off the bat. I took my time.
Mm-hmm. Right. Kentucky Fried Chicken started. He was 60. Yeah. Who knew? Right? Who knew?
Exactly.
Larry King, who we just lost, and I didn't know this, he started in the newsroom at the age of 60.
Yes.
I didn't know that. So I'm going to ask you this question, and I think I'm afraid to ask this question. So what do you think of the current political environment?
I think, unfortunately, the word that I would probably associate with that would be the word tragic. I think it's tragic that that we have a culture of mentality that has, I think, lost its concept of what America is. Do I have faith? I do, Connie. I do. But it is. I find it to be tragic for a number of different reasons. And yet, I do believe we will survive, and we will eventually find a way again to have enough decency to have differences, but still not wish to injure one another over them, and or at least find ways to work together. Because we have a ton of examples of some of the greatest things in this country that we as a society, as a majority group of people, a huge majority, that we love watching and engaging with, that involve teams, whether it's team sports, whether it's the Olympics, or whether it's the team of people that are trying to execute inoculations across the country for COVID. You simply can't accomplish great things by rowing the opposite direction in the same boat. And so I do have faith, but what's happened recently is not something that just got to where we are, and it isn't even something that just happened over the course of the last 4 years. So I do think that social and technology has separated us in certain developmental ways for people who were 12 or 10 years old 15 or 20 years ago, when technology started to really take over our lives. And I think it's a real challenge to find the balance between the value and beauty of technology and everything being instantaneous, and simply the human connectiveness of being able to have a difficult conversation without turning it into a fight. And that's just a form of extremisms that just don't work. That would be my general statement.
They don't work. I know that you've been very I don't want to say outspoken, but you've shared your views and your opinion.
I'm fairly outspoken.
So very, very eloquently said. But and again, with that, where do you see the role? And again, you're an actor. I know that you've been auditioning virtually. Well, let's start there. How has that changed for you, that industry?
Well, the hardest thing about, and the funny part about it, or maybe just the ironic part about it is, Connie, is that even without COVID, this industry was already headed the direction it now got forced into by COVID. We had already been, and it's been a big topic of conversation in the industry with regards to technology, that we had already moved into an era over the last 10 years where recording yourself, self-taping auditions at home was becoming a good 50 to 60% of auditions before COVID. Well, now it's done. Now all of us have learned how to buy, and it's not even TikTok or IG. We have all learned how to, just ask Will Roberts, to have green screens and to have drops in your house and to have 3 ring lights and to learn how to do the basics of iMovie. This has now become one of those things that you literally would say is just a standard part of trying to be a professional today. So that element culturally, again, a cultural change was already happening. Now it's a given. And I don't see Hollywood ever going back fully to the old way of doing things. Commercially, maybe. Yeah. For commercials, we may go back to having auditions in person again a lot, but theatrically, for film and television, especially globally, and the fact that we live in such a global engagement with Australians and folks from the UK working here as much as they do and in and out of Canada, I believe people are going to like, just out of safety's sake, and COVID's not going to leave us throughout the 2021, so people better know that now. I don't see it shifting all the way back anytime soon in my industry at all.
And that's, and we could say that's unfortunate, but at the same time, you look at the positive, and then, well, really, that's, that could be fortunate for the industry. So how, and I know that you did some rules during all of this COVID time, and they were doing them differently. Like you were recording and getting in front of a camera almost by yourself with nobody else in the room. So the technology to do that and then bring that show together as if everybody's there together is just, it's incredible. The innovation of that alone, I mean, just speaks volume for where we've gone in the technology space.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's, again, unfortunately, it extends itself to once you quote unquote do that in post production to make it look like everybody was involved. That's once again one of those skill sets as an actor that you don't have a choice. You have to find a way to get really good at actually working as if you're sitting in a room with someone when you aren't. But the cool part for me is I called auditioning, and I actually have this on my audio program, Connie. I called auditioning for film and television commercials a long time ago asexual reproduction, because even if you're reading with somebody in the same room, you can't guarantee or promise yourself that you would ever get the same kind of energy or depth that you would necessarily working with an actor. So I learned a long time ago that if I have to get here in something, I can't count on the person reading with me to help me get there as if we were doing stage or if we were in class. Well, now we've just gone another level beyond that, of where you're literally having to do work in an electronic scenario, no different than corporate speaking, as you and I've talked about. It
Yeah, I
just
was going to
forces,
ask you about that. How do
yeah,
you still carry that energy that's coming across? Because again, in corporate speaking, they want to know our speakers are certified, which you are. And they want to know that they have a strong video background presence, Hollywood ready, which you do. So but that it's that energy that you have to bring across.
yeah.
Like, I
And
mean,
it's going to
people.
take 20 or 25% more now, Connie. I just finished doing a 90-minute presentation on Tuesday,
Mhm.
90 straight
Okay.
minutes. And I'm used to speaking in front of people, which I've been doing since 1991. And
Now
and,
you're
and,
speaking to this little camera.
that it doesn't talk back. It doesn't laugh back. And, I count on laughs even when I'm being serious. And
Right.
it simply is, it's not a new skill set. It is a hyper extension of the skill set
Mhm.
you already have. And unfortunately, and I'll just use a quote from something a casting director said to me years ago, which applies to all of this. He said to me years ago, in the vein of casting and being an actor, he said, Kevin, he said, what we ask you guys to do walking in here is unfair. He said, but the problem is, if you can't do it, there are 50 people outside the door who can. Now, he didn't say
Okay.
500 and he didn't say 5 million. He said
Right.
50. And how many do they need?
One.
One. And so,
Right.
unfortunately, whether you like it or not, necessity is the mother of invention. You're simply going to have to up your skill set in a way so that it still feels to the viewing audience like you're standing on a stage talking to them in an arena someplace where it's fun and we're all hanging out and there's a hosted bar afterwards. I mean, that's just the reality
I
of what
don't
you have to do.
I don't know if you remember this conversation we had several years back when we had our showcase. And when we have our showcase, we were doing it virtual. We would bring the speakers in to the studio and very small studio audience, and we were streaming it out live to basically event professionals because we want them to experience you and hire you for speaking. And you said to me, "Goes, this isn't fair. There isn't any audience interaction. We can't do this." And I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm thinking, well, I guess we were setting them up.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
and
yeah.
on top of that, the way we had to do it, we had to light it in such a way that, I couldn't even see the proscenium. I couldn't even see the edge of the stage. No one could. I mean, I could basically in the background pick out where the three cameras were, but it's just a different speaking experience, and there's no engagement back. It's not dynamic. But the problem is that while it's not going to be everybody, there are going to be 10% of any sector who simply sucks it up, Buttercup, and finds a way to do it just almost as well as they would have done it if there would have been somebody there. And so for me and someone like me, as you well know, that's my job. And
And
by golly,
right.
I'm gonna find a way to be one of those 10%. Period. End of conversation. Full stop.
Okay, and that takes us to our close. So suck it up, Buttercup, everybody. Kevin E. West. Kevin, thanks for being here.
My pleasure always, Connie. Anytime.
Thank you.